Hello everyone and welcome to Daggers Discusses Episode 2. Episode 2, meaning that this is going to be a recurring thing that I'm going to be doing. I think I like this setup more than Midweek News. Midweek News is all about me giving an opinion about an article that I just read, and Daggers Discusses is going to be more like me kind of creating a discussion about games from an article that I read. So it's different. The article that I read this time was an article by Finder.com, written by Chris Stead, and this is about Dishonored 2. And there was an interview done with Harvey Smith, co-founder of Arcane Studios, the studio that developed Dishonored and is developing Dishonored 2, and they talk about branching paths for story purposes. Now, we've dealt with branching paths in the past about, like, you know, choosing dialogue options that lead to different things. Witcher, Mass Effect, Fallout, sort of. Fallout has different storylines. You can, like, kind of join different factions, but there's not really any dialogue. It's sort of like dialogue. It's more like you just choose a faction. And so we've had those in the past. This is a little different. A little change. So you have Corvo and Emily as the two characters that you can play as. Corvo is the main character from Dishonored 1. This is Dishonored 2 we're talking about now. So you have the main character from Dishonored 1, Corvo, and I believe the little girl who is the Empress's daughter. So the princess, you have her as a playable character now. She's much older now. Much older. So you have these two characters that you can play as. And the way it works from the interview is that you have both characters and you play as both until you get to a certain point in which you have to branch off and choose either Corvo or Emily. And then you choose whoever you choose, you play for the remainder of the game. And that's interesting. But it does mean that once you play one, the other is locked out, and so in order to get that other the other storyline that's left of the game, you're gonna have to replay the game. The way this is sold is that many people have different play styles when it comes to Dishonored, and what this does is it allows people to play a certain way with one character, then do another playthrough with the other character, and play the same story again, or play a different story, I should say. You have a different story as well as you could do a different play style. So that's the way it's sold to us as consumers, and there are some people that I think like this idea because it's happened in other games, the idea of doing multiple playthroughs of different play styles, and I think that appeals to those people. And there are other people who are concerned about the fact that this is just kind of artificially elongating the game. You're not really providing more. You're just make us have to play it multiple times to get the full experience, and that just artificially lengthens your game to make it seem like there's more value than there actually is in the game. And I say those people probably wouldn't want this game then. There's a level of skepticism here, which is there are people who don't have the time to do multiple playthroughs of games. Okay, there are people who exist out there who can't do it. To those people, I would probably suggest just moving along and buying another game, because this game is going to require multiple playthroughs if you want the entire story. If you don't care about the story, you just want to do like a playthrough with like Corvo or something, and you just want to do that, that's fine. You can do that. But I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's a little interesting. I want to take this a little bit more. That's kind of my opinion on the kind of like whatever small. It's a very small controversy. It's not really there. It's not really there. It's somewhat there. It's just not that big of a deal. To take this a little bit bigger, I kind of want to talk about like because I'm trying to think of a game that has done this, like taken it so you have two story paths that require you to do multiple playthroughs. Because I know there have been games where you do multiple playthroughs and there's different play styles, And there's even games like I said, Fallout New Vegas is one I'm going to use as an example, because that's the one that I know the best, where when you choose a faction, you're not stuck with that faction, but you're going to stick with that faction. And the story doesn't change that much. You still talk to the same, you got to go deal with the boomers, then you got to talk to the Brotherhood of Steel. You might have to kill the Brotherhood of Steel. You might have to deal with the families that are in New Vegas, whichever faction you join. And so there are some slight variants to the story, but it's mostly the same. It's just from a different perspective. And maybe that's how this game, that might be how, I guess that'd be kind of disheartening if the story for Dishonored 2 was the same story, but you just saw it from a different perspective. I think there'd be some outrage on that, and I think it'd be a little bit legitimate, because in this article, he gives it as they're two separate paths. They're completely separate stories, and the idea is that you only get 25% of the story from one playthrough, so you have to do the other playthrough to get the other 75%. And if they're just different perspectives, that's not 25%. Okay, so I take it as they are completely separate paths. You have to do multiple playthroughs if you want to know everything about the story that is told in Dishonored 2. For a lot of people, I don't think that's going to be a concern. I don't think there's a whole lot of people that there are a lot of people who care about. There's a lot of people who don't. I think that's the reality. And so I'm trying to think of other games though, because you have like Diablo is a good example of the same exact story, but you play it maybe with different characters because you want different play styles. I'm trying to think of other games that kind of have that same Mass Effect 2, Renegade, Paragon branches. You might make a Paragon character, you might make a Renegade character. They're going through the same story though. You're just again going at it with different perspectives. So we've had different perspectives before. I can't think of it. I'm more like almost asking anyone who watches this episode to think of a game where you have to do multiple playthroughs to get a completely, I shouldn't say completely different, because it's not completely different. Maybe it's that it's maybe not be completely different, but you know completely separate storylines. And I just can't think of it. I can't think of any. So in the comments below, if you can think of any games, that would be helpful, and I'd really like to know what those games are. And so I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you all next time.